Greetings YouTube, this is Jethro. We're here today to do the part 2 of the Ford 100 year collection. So we got 6 more cars to do. We're going to go ahead and wrap that up today. Hope you all like it. So we're going to go ahead and get started on it. Alright, first up is the 1950 Mercury Sport Coupe. That one was kind of made famous by James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. All in black and everything, just like the one he had in the movie. Pretty much very similar to the 49 Ford that we left the last one on. Mechanically it's pretty similar to that. Again, this is just the departure from the old fat fender days into what was going into the 50s. This one was very, very popular with the customizers, the Barris brothers and all of them. They did a lot of custom work with that. A really cool car, nice lines, very sleek, modern looking for its day. But yet still had a lot of personality for the car. So pretty cool piece. There's no opening hoods or doors or anything. That's why I'm not really opening anything up, because they don't. But it's really nice paint and everything, nice finish on those. So we're just gonna go ahead with that and move on to the next one. All right, and next up is the 55 Thunderbird. It's a little what Ford called the personal luxury car. Commonly people thought it was like a competition to the Corvette. It may have been a little bit of an answer to the Corvette, but they went a little bit different way. It wasn't really considered or meant to be a sports car. It was more meant to be just a boulevard cruiser type of a car. It's 55 and 56 were very similar cars in appearance. They made a few little changes, but this one's in the ever popular 50s color of turquoise. They were all, the 55 and 56 and 57 were all three, they were convertibles. They did not, they had the hard top, but it was a it was a removable hard top. It also had an optional soft top that you could use for it. That way if you're going on a longer trip you could have it up or down as needed, but typically they had hard tops on them. Powered by the 292 V8 with the option of the 312 Thunderbird 8. I believe they had an option of an automatic transmission and a 3-speed or a 4-speed. They were pretty cool cars. Very, very tight to get in and out of. The interior space was pretty limited. But overall, it was a cool car, just a little different. Ford was just trying different things. The marketplace was changing so fast in the 50s. They just trying all different ways. Only kept with the small 2-seater for the 3 years. So. But that's about it for the Thunderbird. Don't have a whole lot of stats on that or production numbers. I really didn't get into all of that. Probably got enough stats and production numbers on the last video from me, so we'll just go with the cars this time. But we'll do that and move on to the next one. Alright, next one up is the 1956 Lincoln Continental Mark II. They call this a Lincoln. I've heard that it was not really considered a Lincoln. The Continental was supposed to be the brand. On this one, it's kind of like a separate product line, but it was built by Lincoln, but had no Lincoln references or badges or anything on the car. It was basically considered a Continental. Another one like the 41 Continental that we covered in the last video is a rather high-end car for the Ford Motor Company. Very neat car. These things are they're very big and they just ride really smooth. It's a really neat car. Again, Ford just testing a lot of different waters here, and finding their place in the marketplace. But this was a very well refined. This thing was popular among the movie stars and the celebrities of the day. I think Elvis had got one. Some of the big businessmen of the day. That's kind of what it was geared toward. It was another very expensive car for a Ford product. I know it is a Lincoln, but still very expensive for something under that umbrella. Again, not very many stats or production. I didn't really get into all of that, but just kind of focusing on the cars themselves. But it's a pretty neat looking car. Like I said, the detail on all of these cars they're very, very well done as far as all the details are correct on the cars. They did a really good job on that. But that'll about do it for the old Lincoln. All right, and next up is the 58 Edsel Bermuda. Kind of scratched my head a little bit on this one as to the significance of it. It was not a very popular car, not a very good part of the Ford story, but the idea was pretty cool. It was Henry Ford II was honoring his dad in the name of the car. It was Ford just introducing another car company to kind of be between the base entry level Ford for the budget minded, and then the Lincoln was the kind of the luxury car, but it kind of stepped on where Mercury was, because Mercury was kind of in between the two, and there really wasn't a market for another product line there. They tried to go kind of between a Mercury and a Lincoln, and there just was the market just wasn't there. They just kind of missed the target, and the styling cues were really out there. So I guess it was one of those things that people are either going to love it and hate it, and apparently they didn't love it, so it kind of flopped. But it's really a cool looking car. The designs, I guess looking back on it, 60 years later, some of the design cues were pretty cool. This one's got the tri-tone paint on it. Again, it's kind of targeting a more luxury market. I always like the side coves in here, the way they did that. That's kind of a neat styling cue. But a neat car. Mechanically, it was just basically a Ford. So anybody that's restoring them these days, other than body parts, anything from the Fords will swap right over mechanically. The brakes, the engines, the steering, all of that. But that's pretty much it for the Bermuda. I just found it interesting that they included that in their significant car collection. But it's cool. It's a neat car. It's something to remember anyway. You sometimes learn from your mistakes. So that about wraps it up for the old Edsel there. Alright, and next up, I guess you would call it the polar opposite to the Edsel. This was another, just a totally new idea, and they, to say the least, they nailed that one. The 64 Mustang, they call it here, that is not true. They did not make a 64 Mustang. It's commonly called a 64 and a half, but they never titled a Mustang as a 64. They're all titled as 65s. So that kind of surprised me that in a Ford Motor Company set that they put the 1964 on there, but maybe this was the concept car. I don't know. But it was an extreme hit with the general public. Typically it was a sporty little personal car, very low priced. It was very affordable. It was basically just a Falcon, Ford Falcon. All the mechanicals were from the Ford Falcon, and they put some new sheet metal on there and kept the price just a little bit more than the Falcon, but you get the inline six. I think the original one had a 260 V8. I don't know if it had a 289 right away or not, but it was a very, very popular, still is today, very popular. And on a personal note, My parents actually had a 65 Mustang. It wasn't new, it was probably around 67, 68, so I was still very young, anywhere from 7 to 10 years old. We got to cruise around in a 65 Mustang convertible. It was red with a black top and interior, and it had the 206 cylinder with a Cruise-O-Matic transmission. Very cool. There's lots we can say about the Mustang, but it's still very popular, even all the way they're still continuing to build them and still popular today. A very cool car. And that's about that for the Mustang. Alright, and finally the 12th car in the collection. This is my videographer Lugnut. This is his favorite car in the collection. I think that one takes a little bit of a lead over the 48 F1. A little bit of difference in the two cars, but he likes both of those. This is the 2004 Ford GT. This was actually, at this point in time, this was just a concept car, but it was already decided and in production. I believe it was 05 when it actually came out, or in 03 when 03 was Ford's 100th year thing. So, but anyway, it was a concept car, and they decided to go ahead and build it very much like the 66, 67 Ford GT40 that was the Le Mans car, the race car. This one also was used as a race car, but it was built typically as a street car.
It was actually 3 inches taller than the GT40.
Yeah, just a little bit
It stood at
taller.
43 inches tall.
Yeah.
Instead of the 40. I'm not sure why they did that, but I do remember that they upped the height just a little bit.
They did that because the original one had to have a bubble here for Dan Gurney because he was actually not a midget.
Yeah.
That's why they did that, because they were actually making it as a street car and wanted to be able to, people that were over 5'10" to actually be able to buy it and drive it. But yeah, that's pretty much. But the car looked very much like that. This one had the 5.4, basically the production V8 that was in a lot of the trucks. But that was the bottom end. Was that the top end? They used the 4-valve per cylinder heads and supercharger, and they got a lot of horsepower out of it. The dealership I worked at, we actually had one of these, and it obviously was sold on the internet wholesale, because we live in a pretty rural area. I don't see anybody driving one of these around here with our dirt roads. Probably wouldn't have gone well. I believe it was right around $200,000 was the price tag on one of these. I don't remember if that was the actual suggested price or if that was what they were going, because they boosted the price because the production was so low, people were paying the money for it. But that's a pretty cool way to end it. That was the brand new car for Ford at their 100th anniversary mark, and that was just a pretty cool deal that the company could do and would do something like that. And that about wraps it up for the cars there. So appreciate y'all watching, and hope y'all enjoyed it. If you want to make some comments on any of y'all had any particular memories of any of these cars, you had one, or like any particular ones or whatever, just feel free to comment and click the like button. I appreciate y'all watching. Have a good one.